It really saddens me that there's still people concerned about Project 2025. And I think there's a lot of misinformation about Project 2025 that is causing people to be scared now that Trump has been elected. So I'm making this video to clarify some misinformation and misperceptions about Project 2025 so that you can make your own informed opinion about what to be worried about and what could go well over the next 4 years. And my hope is, even if you're not excited for Trump to be president, at least you can feel less scared and more safe. So first, what is Project 2025? Project 2025 is a 1,000-page document that was authored by the Heritage Foundation, which is an independent conservative think tank. In this document, there's about 700 different policy proposals, and it's really wide-ranging, talking about issues like abortion, immigration, the economy, and overhauling the government. This is not a document that was ever authored, written, read, or endorsed by Trump, and he's been very, very clear about that multiple times on public record, both in writing and on video. Here's some examples.
As you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Like some on the right, severe right, came up with this Project 25, and I don't even know. I mean, some of them I know who they are, but they're very, very conservative, just like you have. They're sort of the opposite of the radical left, okay? You have the radical left and you have the radical right, and they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is, it's Project 25. He's involved in Project, and then they read some of the things, and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. But I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. But what they do is misinformation and disinformation.
Let me ask you about Project 2025. So you've publicly said that you don't have any direct connection to Project
Nothing. I know nothing about it. And they know that too. Democrats know that. And I purposely haven't read it because I want to say to you, I have no idea what it's all about. It's easier than saying I read it and, all of the things. No, I purposely haven't read it. And I've heard about it. I've heard about things that are in there that I don't like. And there's some things in there that everybody would like.
Now, part of the problem here is no matter what Trump says, some people simply refuse to believe him. And that's understandable given Trump's tendency to exaggerate things and the media's propaganda campaign for the last 10 years to take so many of his comments out of context. So we're left at a bit of a quandary because, well, how do you prove a negative? If someone says something about you and you deny it, well, how do you prove that what they're saying is not true if you're saying that you're not going to do something? I mean, for an example, imagine someone started spreading a rumor about you at your workplace or at school. And then you heard about this rumor and you kept on saying, no, that's not true, but people demanded that you proved it. Well, it's really hard to prove that you're not something, but I can at least point you to some facts that will help you with maybe at least doubting the veracity of some people's claims that Project 2025 is Trump's plan. The first thing to look at is, well, Trump explicitly has a plan, and it's called Agenda 47. And it's not hidden somewhere. You can literally just go to his website, donaldjtrump.com, and see it. And on that site, there's a written policy document that explicitly details exactly what Trump plans to do. And there's also a video page where you can see in-depth breakdowns on all of these policies. The other argument that people make is, okay, well, even if Trump really isn't the author of Project 2025 and has never read it and has had no direct hand in it, well, there's people around him who have been involved in it. And that's true. And I would also point out that there's many people who are prominently associated with him that have nothing to do with Project 2025, like his vice president, J.D. Vance, or Elon Musk, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Vivek Ramaswamy. The third thing I point out is that Project 2025 is actually not a presidential agenda. It's a long, wide-ranging policy document that describes an overall conservative view of the world. Now, that has fortunate and unfortunate consequences depending on how you feel about the plan. The fortunate thing is that it doesn't mean that it's Trump's actual plan. It just means that it's a plan of some people who are associated with him. Unfortunately, it does mean that, yes, there are some areas of the plan that generally overlap with Trump's own agenda. But there are also things in there that at least indirectly, if not outright directly, conflict with Trump's own Agenda 47. Project 2025 has a much more hawkish, aggressive stance on military intervention and foreign conflict. And this is one of the things where Trump has been clearest that he does not want to have more military intervention and instead takes a more isolationist view on American military activity abroad. It's also worth considering that despite Trump himself being an extreme character in his mannerisms and how bluntly he speaks, he's actually a pretty moderate Republican if you actually look at his policies. I mean, one could argue that the most extreme thing he has as a policy is promoting mass deportations. And at this point, the majority of the American people actually do support mass deportations, at least to some extent. Trump himself is not a very far right-wing guy. He's actually a pretty right-of-center individual who himself used to actually be a Democrat and used to be an independent before he finally became a part of the Republican Party. It's also worth noting that when Trump arrived on the scene politically in 2015, he was not embraced by the Republican Party at all. In fact, many people actively opposed him, and it was through sheer force of will and grassroots support that Trump sort of just took over the Republican Party. And one could argue that the modern Republican Party is mostly the MAGA party and not the Republican Party of old. Now, I'm not going to go through all of Project 2025 because, again, it's 1,000 pages and it's 700 policy proposals. But I am going to address one specific part because there's overlap between Project 2025 and Agenda 47 when it comes to dismantling the Department of Education. Now, this is one of those things that makes really good headlines and it sounds really scary. But here we need to distinguish between first order and second order analysis. So the first question I'd ask you is, well, do you know what the Department of Education's purpose actually is? And then the second question is it fulfilling its purpose well? The Department of Education was founded in 1980 by Jimmy Carter. And the point of it back then was to standardize education practices across the United States, especially to prevent discrimination, which was a big deal at the time. Since the Department of Education was founded, it has a $90 billion budget. And despite the amount of money being spent on education in the United States going up year over year, the results that we're getting are going down, and it doesn't seem to be correcting that trend. Among the OECD, which consists of 38 first world and developed nations, the US ranks 31st out of 38 when it comes to math preparation and math education in schools. Despite the US spending the most or near the most on education, we get some of the worst scores, especially in areas like math and science. So let me ask you a question. If we're spending the most on education, but we're getting some of the worst results, wouldn't we want a president who actually is looking into that and is considering dismantling the part of the company that is underperforming the most? And the argument for people who are pro-dismantling the Department of Education is that we could take the $90 billion that we're funneling through the Department of Education and instead just give a lot of that money directly to the states, where the states who are lower to the ground and understand students' needs can more efficiently allocate that money. Now, on a personal note, it really upsets me that so many people are upset and afraid about the possibility of Project 2025. Because in my estimation, this is just a hoax, and it's something that political opponents of Trump have kept on pushing despite it not having direct links to Trump because they know it's politically expedient. And that really saddens me because none of these people seem to get held accountable because, well, we all have short attention spans. There's a 24-hour news cycle, and we forget where a rumor even started. So when that rumor is proven not to be true, there doesn't seem to be any accountability. And I would point out that these are the same people that said that Trump was colluding with Russia to win the 2016 election.
You can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
Can you win with Russian interference, though?
That's the real
what I'm
thing.
scared about in 2020.
But rightly.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right.
He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Would you be my vice presidential candidate? Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
The same people that, to this day, are claiming that Trump called white supremacists very fine people.
Who said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist rally.
Look, you might disagree with Trump, and I think there's plenty of valid reasons to be concerned about the actual policies that he's actually authored himself. And I leave you with this final question. There's been so much energy and dislike of Trump that it's been very easy to jump into the worst case scenarios about what his presidency can mean. But we consider all these Hollywood celebrities and all these politicians and the mainstream media and their incentives to have you believe anything that they say about Trump. Do you really believe that these people had your best interest in mind?